At my son's wedding, the priest suddenly stopped and said, "This ceremony cannot continue." That was the moment everything began to unravel. The church smelled of roses and wax, that strange mix of sweetness and smoke that clung to every pew. I sat there with my palms sweating, the fabric of my dress sticking to my back despite the cool air blowing from the vents above. My son, Daniel, stood at the altar in his crisp black suit, tall and nervous, twisting his cufflinks the way he did when he tried to act calm. I couldn't stop staring at him. My boy, about to start his own family. My chest swelled with pride, even as my throat tightened with nerves. The violins played softly in the background, their notes floating up to the chandeliers like smoke. Guests whispered, shoes scuffing on the marble floor. Everything had that charged silence of anticipation, like we were all holding our breath. Then the priest, Father Thomas, stepped forward. He lifted the Bible, his voice deep and steady at first. "Father Thomas, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." His words echoed against the stone walls. I exhaled, finally letting myself relax into the moment. Lily, Daniel's bride, stood radiant in white lace, her bouquet trembling ever so slightly in her hands. She glanced at him, then at me, her eyes shining with tears. For a second it was perfect. Then Father Thomas stopped, mid-sentence. He froze, his mouth still open, as though the words had been stolen from him. The violinist's bow screeched against the string by accident, and the sharp sound made half the room flinch. The priest's eyes swept across the crowd. His hands tightened on the Bible until his knuckles went pale. A bead of sweat slid down his temple despite the cool air. I frowned, leaning forward. Me, whispering, "Father?" Daniel shifted uneasily at the altar. "Daniel, is something wrong?" Father Thomas licked his lips, his eyes flicking to Lily, then back to Daniel. I swear I saw something break in his expression, like a mask slipping. And then he spoke. His voice was hoarse, almost shaking. "Father Thomas, this ceremony cannot continue." The words cracked like a gunshot in the silence. Gasps erupted around me. The crowd came alive with whispers, like a wave rolling through the pews. I caught fragments. Guest 1, whispering, "What did he say?" Guest 2, "Did he mean that literally?" Guest 3, "He can't just stop a wedding." Lily's hand flew to her mouth, the bouquet rattling against her trembling fingers. Daniel's face strained of color as he turned sharply to the priest. "Daniel, what the hell does that mean?" I stood halfway from my seat, my knees shaking. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear myself think. The room suddenly felt hotter, airless, though I knew the AC hadn't shut off. The priest lowered his gaze, almost ashamed, and muttered, "I cannot bless this union. Not in good conscience." The whispers swelled louder, frantic, like bees trapped in a jar. I turned in every direction, seeing shock, confusion, anger painted on faces. A child began crying, his mother shushing him urgently. The sound echoed painfully through the church. My chest tightened as if invisible hands were squeezing my lungs. Why? What could possibly make him stop? Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Daniel, if you know something, say it. Now." Father Thomas's lips trembled, but he shook his head. "The truth must come to light. But I cannot be the one to bury it any longer." My nails dug into the pew as I stared at him, unblinking. His voice had a finality to it, the tone of a man carrying something heavy. My instinct screamed that whatever this was, it wasn't a mistake, and it wasn't small. Lily's father rose from his seat, red-faced. Lily's father. "This is outrageous. Father, you're humiliating us in front of everyone. Continue the ceremony at once." But the priest stood rooted in place, the Bible clutched to his chest like a shield. His silence was more damning than words. I looked at Daniel. His jaw was clenched so tight it trembled. His eyes darted to Lily, then to me, begging for answers I didn't have. Lily looked back at him, her lips quivering as if she wanted to speak but couldn't. My stomach twisted violently. I felt cold and hot all at once, sweat sliding down my spine. Something deep inside me knew this wasn't random. This was deliberate. And in that frozen moment, the chandeliers above seemed to flicker, the light dimming just slightly. Maybe it was my vision, blurring with panic, but it felt like the world itself was warning me. The priest inhaled sharply, finally raising his eyes. "Father Thomas," low, almost a whisper. "I know the truth about this family." The whispers turned into sharp gasps. My hands went numb, gripping the wood of the pew until I thought it might splinter. The priest's next words sent an icy shiver down my spine, as if I already knew this was only the beginning. The silence in that church was so heavy I could hear the drip of wax from the candles. Father Thomas's voice cracked as he repeated himself. Father Thomas, trembling. I cannot allow this marriage to continue. Not in good conscience. The words hit me like a physical blow. My stomach dropped, cold and hollow, as if I had swallowed ice. Gasps rose again, sharper this time. Whispers darted like arrows through the pews. A woman's perfume, sharp and floral, mixed with the sour tang of sweat as people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The scent clung to the back of my throat, making it hard to breathe. Daniel turned on him, his face pale but his jaw locked tight. Daniel, what the hell are you talking about? You're supposed to marry us. That's your job. His fists clenched at his sides. The cufflinks I had given him this morning glinted under the chandelier light, but his knuckles were white with tension. Lily looked like a statue beside him, her bouquet trembling. The lace on her gloves crinkled as she squeezed the stems so tightly they bent. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. This isn't happening. Not now. Not like this. Father Thomas shook his head. His lips pressed together, as though he were forcing himself not to say more. His eyes darted toward the front row, then quickly away again, like a man carrying a secret that was too heavy. Me, quiet, shaky. Father, please. If something is wrong, you can tell us. He looked directly at me, and for a moment I saw pity there. Genuine pity. Father Thomas, low, firm. This marriage, it is built on something false. If I bless it, I become part of the lie. The crowd erupted again. Guest 1. This is insane. Guest 2. Does he mean one of them cheated? Guest 3. Or worse, something illegal? Lily's father shoved himself to his feet, his face red as a ripe apple. His hands shook, but his voice boomed. Lily's father. You've lost your mind, old man. Senile. You embarrass us all with this nonsense. Sit down and finish the ceremony before you humiliate yourself further. But the priest didn't move. His hands tightened on the Bible like it was the only thing keeping him steady. I scanned the crowd, searching for answers in faces that looked just as panicked and confused as mine. And that's when I saw him. Uncle Robert. He sat in the far corner, his legs crossed casually, one arm draped over the pew. Everyone else looked rattled, some whispering, some glaring, but not Robert. His lips twitched into the faintest smirk. Not enough for most people to notice, but I saw it. That slight curl at the edge, the look of a man enjoying the show. My stomach flipped. He knows something. He did something. Daniel's voice broke through my thoughts, sharp and furious. Daniel, if you've got something to say, then say it. Don't stand there playing games with my life. Father Thomas's hand trembled as he lifted it slightly, as if to calm Daniel. Father Thomas, the truth must come to light, even if it destroys us. But I cannot be the one to speak it fully. Not here. Not yet. His hesitation was unbearable. My palms were slick against the polished wood of the pew. Not yet? What did that mean? Lily finally spoke, her voice breaking. Lily soft, pleading. Please, please don't do this. Whatever it is, it can wait. This is our wedding. Her voice cracked on the last word. Tears shimmered in her eyes, her lower lip trembling like a child about to cry. Father Thomas shook his head slowly. Father Thomas, no. A foundation built on lies will always collapse. Better now than after vows are exchanged. Lily's father cursed under his breath and stomped back into his seat, muttering about lawsuits and disgrace. The whispers had grown into a low roar now, people craning their necks, pointing fingers. I caught snippets. Guess. Must be about Lily. Another guess. Or Daniel. Oh God, is it about his family? The blood rushed to my head, and suddenly the air felt too thin, too hot, like the church itself was closing in. I looked back toward Robert. He leaned slightly forward now, elbows resting on his knees, fingers steepled beneath his chin. His eyes were fixed on Father Thomas, unblinking, like a predator waiting for its prey to slip. That smirk hadn't left his face. If anything, it was sharper now. He's behind this. I can feel it. Daniel turned back toward me, desperate. Daniel. Mom, do you know what's going on? My throat locked. I wanted to protect him, to shield him from the shame unraveling in front of everyone, but I had nothing, no answers, no explanations. Only the sick certainty that Robert's shadow was tangled in this somehow. Father Thomas shifted uncomfortably, his shoulders stiff, his knuckles pressing against the leather of the Bible. Father Thomas strained. This family carries a wound that cannot be ignored. I cannot bless a union that rests upon it. The words landed heavy, cryptic, cruel in their vagueness. The violinist had long since stopped playing. The only sound was the occasional shuffle of shoes, the faint buzz of the chandeliers, and that relentless strip of wax on the candle beside me. Every drop hit the brass tray with a soft tick that made my skin crawl. I wanted to scream at him to stop talking in riddles, to just tell us outright. But I couldn't move, couldn't speak. My voice was locked somewhere deep inside my chest. Robert, though, he shifted slightly, crossing his legs the other way. His fingers tapped on the pew, slow and deliberate. His eyes slid over to meet mine, and for the briefest moment, he winked. My heart nearly stopped. I knew Father Thomas wasn't lying, but I also knew Uncle Robert wasn't innocent either. The wedding guests turned into a jury, each whisper carrying the weight of a verdict. The murmurs spread like wildfire, low at first, then louder, sharper, filled with accusation. Chairs scraped against the polished church floor, long, angry screeches that echoed like thunder. People rose to their feet, pointing fingers at the altar, at Father Thomas, at Lily, at us. I could barely hear my own thoughts above the din. Guest 1, hissing, "He's hiding something! You don't stop a wedding for nothing!" Guest 2 shouting back, "Just let them finish! It's none of our business!" Guest 3, "If it's about sin, it is our business!" The air thickened with perfume, sweat, and the sharp tang of spilled wine from an overturned glass near the aisle. The sourness crawled up my nose, mingling with the electric tension, making me want to gag. Daniel's face burned crimson. His chest rose and fell fast, too fast, like a man about to explode. Me, whispering urgently, "Daniel, breathe. Don't give them a show. Please!" But he shook me off. His jaw trembled, teeth grinding. "Daniel," snarling, "he humiliated me in front of everyone. He better say it. Right now." His fists balled at his sides. I could see the veins in his neck bulging, the same way they had when he used to fight with his brother as a teenager. Lily's mother, meanwhile, crumpled into her seat. Her sobs came out ragged, broken. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in black rivers. She dabbed at her face with a tissue, but it only smeared the mess further. Lily's mother, wailing, "Why are you doing this to her? To us?" Her voice cracked, making heads whip toward her, some with sympathy, others with disgust. I glanced toward Father Thomas. His shoulders hunched as though the weight of the room pressed down on him. His hands shook violently, fingers twitching against the Bible, until finally he lowered it to his side, retreating a few steps toward the back. Me, pleading softly, "Father, please, just tell us." But he wouldn't meet my eyes. His lips moved as though in silent prayer, sweat gleaming on his forehead. He looked less like a holy man now, and more like a man cornered. The crowd wasn't letting go. Guest 4, angrily, "Speak the truth." Guest 5, snapping, "No, don't, he'll destroy her." The noise battered me, every word a hammer. And then I saw Robert. He leaned toward our cousin, whispering fast, deliberate, too fast. His lips barely moved, but his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. He had one hand raised slightly, like a conductor guiding the chaos, pointing, stirring. The cousin's head snapped toward Lily, then Daniel, and then he started whispering to the person beside him. The infection spread. The whispers thickened. "He's feeding them. He's seeding something." I froze, bow rising in my throat. Daniel lunged toward Father Thomas. Daniel, roaring, "You tell me what you mean right now or I swear." I grabbed his arm. Me, harsh whisper, "Stop! They're all watching." His eyes flicked to mine, wild, glassy, burning with humiliation. For a moment, I thought he might shove me aside. But he didn't. He just shook, like a storm caged inside him. Behind us, the arguments escalated. Two men stood chest to chest, one insisting the priest reveal the truth, the other shouting to let the ceremony go on. Someone knocked over a chair, the crash startling a child who began wailing. The sound cut through me, sharp and raw, like a reminder that innocence had no place here. The air was suffocating, heavy with heat and tension. My dress clung to my back with sweat. I turned my eyes back to Robert. He wasn't whispering anymore. He was watching me. His lips curved, just enough. A smirk, cold, knowing. His fingers tapped against his knee in a slow rhythm, as if he had all the time in the world. He wants this. He wants the fire. And he knows I see it. Lily clutched her bouquet tighter, petals falling in crumpled bits onto the floor. Her face was pale, her lips quivering. She looked at Daniel like she wanted to reach for him, but didn't dare. Lily, soft, broken. Daniel, maybe we should stop. Daniel, snapping. No! We're not stopping. This is our day. Our life. The crowd roared again, echoing his defiance, half of them cheering him on, the other half demanding truth. And Father Thomas? He backed into the shadows near the sacristy door, clutching the Bible like a shield, his eyes darting like a hunted man. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about Daniel and Lily. This wasn't just about a wedding. That's when I realized, the truth wasn't just about my son's wedding. It was about our family's darkest secret. My hands wouldn't stop trembling as I asked myself, what does he know? What does he plan to reveal? I pushed through the side door after Father Thomas, my heels clacking against the stone floor louder than I wanted. Each step sounded like a gunshot in the silence of the sacristy. The smell hit me first, aged wood soaked with incense, wax hardened into streaks down iron candlesticks, and the faint musk of damp stone. The air was colder here, away from the crowd's body heat. Father Thomas stood near the small altar table, one hand pressed against it for balance. His face was ghostly, beads of sweat rolling down his temple, soaking into the collar of his vestments. He looked less like the calm priest who had blessed my children's baptisms, and more like a man trying not to collapse. Me, breathless. Father, please, what is this? What have you done to my son? His eyes flicked to mine, then down, as if the weight of my stare burned. His lips moved, but only a whisper escaped. Father Thomas, hoarse, trembling. This marriage is built on lies, and I will not bless it. His words clung to the air like smoke. I took a step closer, clutching my hands to stop their shaking. Me, sharply. What lies? Tell me now. Everyone out there is ready to tear each other apart. He shut his eyes tight, his jaw quivering as though the effort of speaking would break him. Father Thomas strained. It is not my secret to tell, but it will come to light. It must. My stomach dropped. I wanted to grab him, shake him until he said it, but his frail shoulders and trembling hands made me pause. He looked as though one hard shove might knock him flat. Instead, I bit down my panic. Me, lower, steady but cold. You humiliated Daniel. If you have something to say it to me. Don't let them destroy him out there. His throat worked as he swallowed. His fingers flexed over the wooden table, nails scratching faintly against the grain. Finally, he whispered, so soft I had to lean in to catch it. Father Thomas, whisper. Ask Robert. The name landed like a stone in my chest. My breath caught. Me, stunned. Robert? He nodded once, eyes darting as if afraid someone would burst through the door. Father Thomas hushed, urgent. Your husband's brother. He holds the sin. The root of it. Follow it back, and you will see. I stumbled back a step, my spine pressing against the cool stone wall. My throat tightened until every breath scraped. Robert. The name burned through me, dredging up every memory I had tried to bury. My late husband's brother. The one who hovered too close, who always seemed to have a hand in places it didn't belong. The man who smiled at funerals, who whispered when no one else could hear. Robert. I remembered Daniel at 16, storming into the house red-faced, fists clenched, muttering curses under his breath. I'd asked what happened, but he never told me. Robert had been there that day too, sitting in the backyard with his drink, smirking like nothing was wrong. I remembered the way Robert leaned too close when he spoke to me after my husband's death, pressing his hand a second too long on mine. The way he maneuvered himself as the protector of the family, while always demanding a cut of every decision. And now this. My pulse hammered in my ears. Me, whispering, broken. No. He wouldn't. Not Daniel. Not my son. Father Thomas's gaze hardened. His eyes, though rimmed with red, carried a grim certainty. Father Thomas, firm, final. Ask Robert. The words weren't advice. They were a sentence. I wanted to scream. To tear back into the church and drag Robert by his collar into the light of the altar. But instead I stood frozen, trembling hands pressed to my chest. The sacristy door rattled faintly as voices carried from the church hall, the violin still playing its cheerful, mocking tune, filling the air with false normalcy. My mind spun, the cheerful music digging into me like knives. I whispered to myself, though the words barely formed. Me, inner voice. If Robert had poisoned this wedding, I need to know how deep the poison runs. If Robert had poisoned this wedding, I had to know how deep the poison ran. When I cornered Robert, he smiled like a man holding all the cards. I found him leaning against the oak-paneled wall of the parish office, the low light from a single desk lamp throwing his features into sharp shadows. He didn't look startled that I'd come for him. If anything, he looked like he had been waiting. His lips curled in a grin, that smug half-smile he wore whenever he thought he had me pinned. Me, through clenched teeth. "What have you done?" He didn't move, didn't flinch. Just adjusted his cufflinks with slow, deliberate precision, as if this were nothing more than a casual business meeting. Robert, smooth, measured. "Oh, sister-in-law, always so dramatic. I haven't done anything. I've only told the truth." The word truth twisted in his mouth like a snake. My chest tightened. Me, snapping. "Father Thomas refused to bless my son's wedding because of you. Because of whatever lies you planted in his head." Robert chuckled. A low, humorless sound. He smelled faintly of whiskey, sharp and bitter, clinging to his breath even from a few feet away. His eyes glistened, not from tears, but from something crueler, a kind of sick delight. Robert, leaning forward, voice low. "I didn't plant anything. I gave him proof. Letters. Kept safe all these years. Letters that say Daniel is not your late husband's child, but mine." For a moment, the room tilted. My blood ran cold. Me, whispering, "Hoarse? You're lying." Robert tilted his head, his expression all false pity, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of amusement. Robert, mocking. "Am I? Think carefully. Think back to the late nights, the whispered suspicions. Did he ever wonder? Did you?" I wanted to slap him. I wanted to claw that smug look off his face, but my hands wouldn't move, locked against my sides as if nailed there. Me, fierce, shaking. "There was never an affair. I never touched you. Not once." His smile widened, but his eyes sharpened, calculating. He pushed off the wall and stepped closer, his shadow stretching over me. Robert, calm, venomous. "You can deny it all you want, but paper speaks louder than memory. Ink doesn't lie. Letters, signatures. Father Thomas believes what he read, and so will Daniel. So will everyone." The words slithered into me, cold and suffocating. Could he have forged them? Of course he could. Robert was always skilled at manipulation, at twisting facts until even you questioned your own sanity. I forced myself to breathe. My mind replayed every strange moment, the way Robert had once patted Daniel's shoulder a little too proudly, the backhanded comments about bloodlines, the subtle digs at my late husband's strength. I dismissed them all as bitterness, as his usual cruelty. Now, I wasn't so sure. Me, steadying myself. "If you think you can break us with forgeries, you're more pathetic than I thought." His laugh was sharp, sudden, echoing off the wood-paneled walls. He leaned in until I could smell the full weight of the whiskey on his breath, warm and invasive. Robert, whispering, "Cruel. Pathetic? No. Strategic. You see, people don't need the truth. They just need a story that fits their suspicions, and I've given them one." He straightened, rolling his shoulders back, posture sharp with dominance. He looked down at me like a king surveying a servant. Robert, taunting. "Go on then. Try to stop me." The challenge hung in the air like smoke. His voice was calm, but his fingers betrayed him, tapping against his thigh, restless, a tic he couldn't control when his nerves sparked beneath the surface. He wasn't invincible. He only wanted me to believe he was. Inside, my rage burned hotter than my fear. My son's future, his name, his family, his marriage, balanced on this man's venom. I needed proof, real proof, before Robert's poison destroyed everything. I swallowed hard, steadying myself. Me, cold, measured. "If you think I'll let you ruin Daniel, you don't know me at all." He smirked, lips curling slow, like he'd been waiting for me to say that. Then, almost casually, he leaned closer, his voice dropping into something quieter, something intimate, almost conspiratorial. Robert, whispering. "Oh, but I do know you. Better than you know yourself." I clenched my fists until my nails cut into my palms. I wanted to scream, but the words lodged in my throat. Then his eyes shifted, a glimmer of mischief sparking beneath the cruelty. He leaned just close enough that I could feel his breath on my ear. Robert, soft, taunting. "Lily knows more than you think." The name hit me like a blow to the chest. My knees nearly buckled. Me, staggering back, barely audible. "What?" But Robert only smiled wider, as if savoring my reaction, as if feeding on it. But then Robert whispered something that made my knees almost buckle. "Lily knows more than you think." I found Lily in the bridal room, her veil crumpled in her hands, her eyes red with tears. The room smelled of roses and hairspray, sweet, artificial, suffocating. Lace and silk lay scattered across the vanity, as though the day itself had been torn apart. Lily sat hunched on the edge of a chair, the white satin of her gown creased beneath her fists. When she looked up at me, her mascara had smudged into gray shadows, her lips trembling as though words were trapped behind them. Me firm low. Lily, what did Robert say to you? She flinched, clutching the veil tighter, knuckles whitening. Lily, shaking, voice cracked. Please don't be angry. I didn't know who else to trust. My heart thudded hard enough to drown out the faint violin music drifting in from the reception hall. I stepped closer, lowering my voice but keeping the steel in it. Me measured, insistent. Look at me. You have to tell me everything. Now. Her eyes darted toward the mirror, as if Robert himself might appear behind her. Then she broke, words tumbling out like stones she'd been carrying too long. Lily sobbing. It's not Daniel I doubt, it's Robert. He came to me months ago, before the engagement was even announced. He said your family had secrets, skeletons. He told me if I loved Daniel, I'd walk away before it destroyed us both. Her shoulders shook as she spoke, and I had to fight the urge to grab her hands, to stop her trembling. Instead, I forced myself to stay steady. Me, tense whisper. What else? Tell me what he showed you. Lily's fingers twisted the crumpled veil until it looked strangled in her grip. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Lily, quiet, terrified. He had a recording. I don't know where it came from, but it was your husband's voice. Daniel's father? He was begging Robert to keep silent, to keep something hidden that could ruin the family. My pulse pounded in my ears so loud I almost couldn't hear her last words. Me, stunned, breathless. What did he say? Exactly? She shook her head quickly, tears sliding down her cheeks. Lily, choking out. I couldn't hear all of it. Just your husband saying, please, Robert. Don't tell them. Don't destroy us. Then it cut off. Robert stopped it there, on purpose. He said there was more, but I couldn't listen. Her voice cracked into a sob. Lily, pleading. I swear I didn't want to believe him. But what if Daniel thinks I knew? What if he thinks I doubted him? I don't want him to hate me. Her fear was raw, clawing at the room. The girl smelled of roses, yes, but beneath it was the acrid scent of nerves, the sour bite of someone trapped in a lie they didn't create. I crouched down in front of her, forcing her to lift her head. Me, soft but fierce. Listen to me. Robert has been poisoning this family for years. He forged letters, twisted truths, and now he's using recordings. Whatever your fiancé's father said, it doesn't make Daniel any less his son. And it doesn't change how much Daniel loves you. Lily pressed her hands over her face, muffling a sob. Lily muffled, broken. Then why does Robert have all the power? Why does he act like he owns our future? The words cut through me. Because she was right. Robert thrived on control, on keeping us guessing, dangling threats like bait until we broke. And if this recording truly existed, then he had a weapon sharp enough to slice through everything I'd built. I placed my hands firmly on Lily's shoulders, grounding her. Me, steady, promising. Because I've let him. But not anymore. You are not alone in this. I won't let him destroy you. Or Daniel. Her eyes shimmered with a desperate kind of hope, searching mine as if clinging to them was her only chance at survival. Lily, whispering. You promise? Me, absolute, unyielding. I promise. I will protect you. The words left my mouth like a vow carved into stone. But even as I said them, a shadow curled in my chest, dark and uncertain. Because I didn't yet know how. Not when Robert had forged paper, poisoned priests, and hidden recordings from the grave itself. Not when the man pulling all the strings was still smiling in the next room. I promised Lily I'd protect her, but I didn't yet know how. The deeper I dug, the more the past clawed back at me. The hallway outside Robert's hotel room was hushed, the patterned carpet swallowing my footsteps. My pulse thundered against my ribs, and every time an elevator dinged, I thought I'd be caught. I slid the stolen keycard into the lock. Father Thomas had trembled too much when he gave it to me, whispering that truth hides in shadows. The light blinked green. The door clicked open. The air inside hit me like a wall, stale cigars, cheap cologne, the faint sourness of whiskey soaked into the curtains. Robert's scent. It was oppressive, as though he'd managed to stain the very oxygen with himself. The room was dim. A single lamp buzzed faintly, its shade tilted, casting an oblong shadow against the wall. His suit jacket hung over a chair. A half-empty glass of bourbon sat on the nightstand, The ice melted into a sad pool. I shut the door softly behind me and forced my breathing to slow. My hands shook as I opened the first drawer of the desk. Pens, receipts, a cufflink. Nothing. The second drawer was stuffed with papers, loose invoices, scribbled notes, some with Daniel's name scrawled in the margins. My stomach twisted. Me, inner thought. He's documenting us, watching, collecting. The bottom drawer stuck. I yanked it, teeth clenched, and it scraped open with a squeal that made my heart lurch. Inside was a black box, heavy, locked. I froze, staring. The box felt alive in my hands, humming with whatever poison Robert had tucked away. I dug through the drawers again, frantic, until I found a small key taped to the underside. Typical Robert, paranoid enough to hide the lock, arrogant enough to leave the key in reach. My hands trembled as I turned it. The click echoed in the silence like a gunshot. Inside, letters, documents, neatly folded in plastic sleeves. Some bore my late husband's handwriting. Others looked wrong, too precise, too practiced. Robert's forgery. He was rewriting history, brick by brick. But what made my stomach drop was the flash drive nestled among the papers. I pulled my laptop from my bag, fingers clumsy as I slotted the drive in. The screen lit up, folders opening. One audio file. Labeled simply, Truth. I clicked. My husband's voice filled the room, and my chest constricted. Husband's voice, recording desperate. Robert, please. Please, I'm begging you. Don't tell them. Don't destroy us. I'll do whatever you want, just don't. The recording cut off abruptly, leaving only static. I yanked the earbuds out, bow rising. The edit was obvious. Robert had spliced it, cut the ending to dangle like bait. He wanted Daniel to believe his father had harbored a monstrous secret. He wanted me to break under the weight of doubt. Me, inner thought burning. He forged letters. He carved the truth into something rotten. He's building a lie brick by brick until even we can't tell the difference. I shoved the drive into my pocket, fury scorching my throat. My hands were shaking so badly the papers rattled as I shoved them aside. That's when I saw them. At the very bottom of the box, beneath the letters, were photographs. Glossy, old, edges curling. Daniel. Daniel at 7 years old, smiling nervously in the backyard. Daniel at 10, baseball glove in hand, eyes fixed somewhere off frame. Daniel at 13, taller, thinner, standing stiffly in a suit. And in every picture, Robert, standing too close, his hand always on Daniel's shoulder. A little too tight, a little too possessive. My breath caught. My fingers went numb, and the photos slipped, fanning across the bedspread like evidence in a courtroom. The walls closed in. Me, whispering, horrified. No, 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 no. Because suddenly it wasn't just about forged papers or poisoned recordings. The pattern was undeniable. Robert hadn't just wanted to ruin Daniel's wedding. He'd been circling him for years, weaving himself into my son's life like a spider in its web. I staggered back from the bed, clutching my chest. My knees almost gave out. All this time, I had thought Robert's obsession was with me. With control. With my late husband's memory. But looking at those photos, I realized the truth clawing at me, leaving my skin cold and my blood hammering in my ears. For the first time, I feared Robert's obsession wasn't just about revenge. It was about Daniel himself. If Robert wanted a war, I would give him one, but on my terms. The church felt colder that morning, as though the stone walls themselves were bracing for battle. I sat in the front pew, hands clenched around my clutch, palms clammy despite the drafts slipping through the stained glass windows. Inside my bag sat the flash drive, the real one, the one Robert hadn't wanted me to find. It felt like a live grenade burning against my thigh. I leaned toward Lily. She looked pale, her veil draped over her lap, fingers twitching as though she were praying silently. Me, whispering, "You don't have to do this if you're not ready." Her throat bobbed. "I have to. If we don't stop him now, he'll always have Daniel. Always." Her voice cracked, but her eyes, red-rimmed from the night before, flashed with steel. Father Thomas shuffled up beside us, robes rustling. His hands trembled as he handed me a small remote, the kind you'd use for a projector. Father Thomas, murmuring, "It will play over the sound system. One button for Robert's version, one for the truth." His gaze darted toward the altar, where Robert stood too comfortably, pretending to chat with Daniel's groomsmen. His forced smile twitched every few seconds, the way it always did when he was suppressing impatience. Father Thomas, low, urgent. "He's already watching you. Careful." I forced myself to meet Robert's eyes across the room. He was laughing at some joke, but the second our gazes locked, his expression flickered. His smile froze, his jaw tensed for a fraction of a second, before he turned back as if nothing had happened. Me, inner thought. He knows something's coming. The ceremony began again. Music swelled, Lily's father escorting her slowly down the aisle. My son, Daniel, stood at the altar, his shoulders squared but his smile faltering under the weight of nerves. My stomach churned. This was supposed to be his day, and Robert had poisoned it. I reached into my bag, fingers brushing the remote. The priest spoke. Vows were exchanged. Applause swelled like a tide. And then, right before the final blessing, I stood. Me, loud, steady. There's something the family deserves to hear before this union is blessed. The church fell into a stunned hush. Daniel's brow furrowed. Lily gripped his hand tightly. Robert tilted his head, that thin smile plastered back on his lips, though his eyes glittered sharp as glass. Robert, smoothly, too casual. Oh? Another speech, dear? You really should have told me. I ignored him and held up the remote. My thumb hovered over the button. Me. Everyone here has heard whispers, rumors, about my late husband, about secrets. But Robert hasn't told you the whole story. Let me show you what he's been hiding. Gasps rippled. Daniel looked from me to Robert, confusion etched deep. I pressed the first button. The edited audio spilled through the speakers. Husband's voice, recording, pleading. Robert, please, please, I'm begging you. Don't tell them. Don't destroy us. I'll do whatever you want, just don't. The file cut off. Murmurs rose like bees in the pews. Daniel's face blanched. Lily's lips trembled. Robert stepped forward, hands raised, voice syrupy. Robert, it pains me that she would stoop to this, on such a sacred day. But yes, you hear it yourself. The man you all admired wasn't what you thought. He turned, scanning the crowd, his forced empathy dripping like oil. But I saw it, the twitch in his cheek, the way his fingers dug into his palm behind his back. Me, cold, clear. That was Robert's version. Now here's the truth. I pressed the second button. The real recording began. Husband's voice, unbroken, raw. Robert, please. Please, I'm begging you. Don't tell them lies. Don't twist everything I've built. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't destroy my family with your bitterness. You've already taken too much. The words echoed through the church, heavy as stone. The cut was obvious, the manipulation undeniable. Silence followed, then gasps, outrage. Heads turned toward Robert. Daniel's voice cracked the air. Daniel, angrily. You edited it. You tried to smear Dad. You. But Robert didn't flinch. His lips curved into that same infuriating calm smile. He even chuckled, low and patronizing. Robert. Ah, clever. She found my drafts. Impressive. But you think a single tape changes who I am to this family? Who I've always been? He spread his arms wide, turning in a slow circle as though daring anyone to challenge him. Robert, taunting. You think I didn't expect this? His eyes locked with mine, and in that instant I knew. He wasn't shaken. He wasn't caught off guard. He was prepared. But Robert had already anticipated me, and he wasn't going down quietly. The second Father Thomas reopened the Bible. I saw Robert's eyes narrow like a predator. The air inside the church felt heavier, almost choking. The guests had settled back into their pews, but their whispers hadn't faded. They buzzed around like wasps in a closed jar. The candles lining the altar hissed faintly, wax dripping in slow, fat tears. Father Thomas's voice cracked as he cleared his throat. Let us continue, this time, with truth as our witness. His hands trembled as they adjusted the Bible, the sound of pages shifting sharp in the stillness. I forced myself to breathe, though every nerve screamed that Robert wasn't finished. My chest ached as if my ribs were too tight to hold my lungs. I glanced toward Daniel. He stood rigid, fists clenched at his sides, eyes flicking between me and Robert like a man drowning and searching for solid ground. And then it came. Robert rose from his pew, the scrape of wood against stone so loud it cut through the priest's words. His voice thundered through the church. Robert. Truth, Father? You dare speak of truth while she... He pointed directly at me, finger stiff, his face contorted with mock grief. While she has lied to her own son his entire life? The pews erupted with gasps. Some leaned forward, clutching at rosaries, others covered their mouths. The smell of sweat and candle smoke mingled, cloying. Me, inner thought, my stomach dropped, but I knew this was coming. He wasn't going to die quietly. Daniel's voice cracked like glass. Daniel. Mom. What is he talking about? His eyes bore into mine, desperate, furious, lost. My throat ached. My son, my baby, was staring at me like I was the accused. Robert spread his arms wide, his performance smooth as velvet. Robert. She never told you, Daniel. About the night your father came to me. About the secrets buried in this family. She paints me as the villain, but what kind of mother hides the truth of her child's blood? The silence that followed was worse than noise. The guests hung on his words, their judgment thick in the air. I wanted to scream, to lunge at him. But instead I steadied my voice, forcing calm I didn't feel. Me to Daniel, steady? Your father loved you. That's all that ever mattered. Daniel's jaw clenched, his nostrils flaring. He looked as though he might explode, or crumble. Lily's trembling hand found mine beneath the pew. I squeezed it, then gave the signal. She stood, veil sliding off her lap, and pressed the small remote. The speakers crackled. And then, my husband's voice, recording, raw and unedited. Robert, please, please, I'm begging you. Don't tell them lies. Don't twist everything I've built. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't destroy my family with your bitterness. You've already taken too much. The sound echoed through the church like thunder. You could feel the shift, first confusion, then recognition, then outrage. People turned to Robert, their whispers sharp and cutting. Daniel's eyes widened. His shoulders slumped with something like relief, but also shame for doubting. Robert's mask cracked. His smile faltered, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. He forced a laugh, though it came out dry, hollow. Robert, snapping. Forged. Doctored. She's clever with her tricks, I'll give her that. Father Thomas, firm, louder than before. Enough. His voice didn't shake this time. I have known this family for decades. I know the sound of the man who once sat in that very pew every Sunday. That was his voice, his plea. The congregation shifted. Murmurs turned to condemnation. Heads shook. A few gasped openly at Robert's unraveling composure. For the first time, I saw real panic flicker across his face. His jaw tightened, his lips trembled before he clamped them shut. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. Me, quietly, cutting through the whispers. It's over, Robert. But I was wrong. He snapped. His voice boomed, stripped of its velvet disguise. Robert, roaring. She thinks she's innocent. She's no saint. She has sins of her own. Ask her, Daniel. Ask your mother what she never told you about the night your father died. The church erupted again, gasps and shouts colliding. Daniel froze, his head whipping toward me, eyes wide in horror. And then Robert snapped, shouting something that no one could ignore. His voice cracked, raw with hatred, as he screamed the one thing he couldn't take back. Robert, roaring. Daniel should have been mine. He should have been my son, not my brother's. The words ripped through the church like a storm breaking stained glass. For a moment, nobody moved. The air itself seemed to recoil. Then came the gasps, sharp, horrified, like the collective breath of the congregation had been stolen. My hands went cold. My nails dug crescents into my palms, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. Me, inner thought. There it was, the truth beneath all his polished venom. The mask shattered, lying in pieces at his feet. Robert's face twisted, veins bulging at his temple. Spittle clung to the corner of his mouth as he ranted. His eyes, wild, bloodshot, scanned the room but kept snapping back to Daniel like a predator that had finally spotted prey. Robert, you were supposed to be mine. I would have raised you better, stronger, not weak, not poisoned by her lies. Daniel stepped back, shoulders tense, jaw working like he was chewing glass. His face was pale, but his fists curled, knuckles white. Daniel, you're insane. Robert laughed, but it wasn't laughter. It was jagged, unhinged, a sound that scraped against the rafters. Robert, insane? No, boy. Smart. I played the long game. Who do you think spread the whispers about your mother? Who forged those letters? Who bribed the neighbors to talk about your father's so-called affairs? He slammed his fist against the pew so hard the wood groaned. People shrank back, clutching purses and children, as though his rage might leap off him and catch like fire. The smell of candle wax thickened, suffocating, as if the air itself wanted to hold its breath. Me, quietly steady? You admit it then. All of it. His head whipped toward me. For a heartbeat the performance returned, his lips tugging into a smile, but it was warped, trembling at the edges. Robert. Oh, I admit it. Why shouldn't I? They should know what you've hidden. I had to drag it all into the light, because you were too much of a coward to tell your own son what kind of man his father was. Father Thomas's voice cut through, steady now, his Bible still open in his hands. Father Thomas. Robert, you have defiled this house of God. Leave, now. Robert's smile vanished. His hands curled into claws, his shoulders hunched forward, his chest heaving. His eyes locked on Daniel again, and something inside him snapped. He lunged. The scrape of chairs against stone was deafening as people leapt aside. My scream caught in my throat, frozen, while Daniel stumbled back, nearly colliding with the altar. Guests shouting, "Stop him! Grab him! Keep him away from the boy!" The metallic clang of a candlestick crashing to the ground rang through the chaos. My body trembled, yet beneath the terror, a strange calm spread through me like ice. Me, inner thought, he's finished. No matter what happens now, his mask is gone. They see him. Finally. Security surged forward, black uniforms cutting through the panicked crowd. They grabbed Robert by the arms, but he thrashed like a rabid animal. Robert, screaming hoarse, "You're mine, Daniel! Do you hear me? You'll see the truth when she betrays you. She always betrays." His voice cracked, shredded by fury, but he kept spewing venom, his curses bouncing off the church walls. The veins in his neck strained, his face purple with rage. Daniel's chest rose and fell in quick bursts. His eyes darted between Robert and me, confusion and anger battling in his expression. But he didn't move. He didn't run. Father Thomas, shouting above the chaos, "Remove him from this place!" The guards dragged Robert backward, his feet scraping against the stone, heels squealing as he fought every step. His shirt clung with sweat, his hair plastered to his forehead. He spat, cursed, tried to twist free, but they held firm. And then, just before the doors, he went still. Too still. His head turned, slow, deliberate. His eyes found mine across the sea of frightened faces, and he smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't theatrical. It was thin, tight, like a blade sliding between ribs. His lips barely moved, but I heard it, clear as if he had whispered it in my ear. Robert, whispering, eyes locked on me. "This isn't over." And as he was dragged out, he locked eyes with me and whispered, "This isn't over." After chaos, silence returned, but it was the kind that left you afraid to breathe. The church smelled of smoke and wax, the air heavy with what had just happened. The pews creaked as guests shifted, some whispering, others staring at me like I'd conjured the devil himself. The floor where Robert had been dragged still bore the scuff marks of his heels. Daniel stood in front of me, trembling. His hands clenched, then unclenched. His chest rose and fell too fast. Daniel, hoarse? Tell me the truth, all of it." His eyes, my husband's eyes, searched me, demanding, breaking. I swallowed hard. My throat burned, but there was no more running. "Not now." Me, voice cracking. "Robert twisted everything. Your father never betrayed us. He begged Robert to stop, begged him to stop poisoning our lives. That recording, that was the truth, not the lies Robert fed you." Daniel's brow furrowed, and for a heartbeat, I thought I'd lost him. His jaw tightened, the way it always did when he was hurt but trying not to show it. Daniel, quiet, almost broken. All these years, my eyes blurred. I forced myself not to look away. Me. He wanted to protect you. Protect us. But Robert couldn't stand it. He hated your father for having what he never could. And he hated me for seeing through him. A silence fell that felt sharper than shouting. Then Daniel moved. He stepped forward, arms wrapping around me so tightly I almost couldn't breathe. His chin pressed against my shoulder, his voice muffled, trembling. "Daniel," whispering, "I believe you. I should have believed you sooner." The sob that tore out of me wasn't graceful. My fingers dug into his back, clinging, not to a son grown into a man but to the child I'd once held against my chest. From the front, Father Thomas cleared his throat, his voice steady but low, as though afraid the chaos might return if he spoke too loudly. "Father Thomas, the ceremony will continue, but let it continue in truth." Some guests left, clutching purses, whispering about disgrace. Others stayed, eyes wide, hands folded as though praying that nothing more would explode inside these walls. Lily stepped forward, cheeks pale but glowing with resolve. She reached for Daniel's hand, grounding him. "Lily, softly. We're still here. We can still do this." Daniel looked at her, then at me, then back to her. His lips trembled, but he nodded. The ceremony resumed, though it felt fractured, like glass glued back together. Father Thomas's voice carried scripture, but my ears rang with Robert's last words. I caught myself staring at the doors, half expecting him to burst back in, wild-eyed, foaming with rage. When Daniel and Lily finally spoke their vows, there were tears, hers clear and delicate, his shaking but sure. Daniel, voice breaking. With you I am whole. With you I am free. The words gutted me. Free. That was all I'd ever wanted for him. When they kissed, the room erupted in applause, but it was strained, brittle, like laughter at a funeral. I clapped too, my palms stinging, but the sound seemed hollow, drowned out by the echo of Robert's voice, still coiled around my mind like a toxin. Me, inner thought. He was gone, but not gone. You don't strip a man like Robert bare without consequence. He would come back for what he thought was his. The newlyweds smiled, radiant in their defiance of everything that had tried to ruin this day. Yet behind their joy, I saw the same shadow in Daniel's eyes that haunted mine. The ceremony ended. Guests drifted out, murmuring, their heels clicking against the stone floor. Some avoided my gaze. Others touched my arm, offering sympathy that felt more like pity. My heart begged for relief, for release. But dread stayed with me, clinging like smoke to my clothes, impossible to wash away. That night, back at the hotel, I lingered in the doorway, staring at the corridor as though expecting to see his figure lurking in the shadows. And then, just after midnight, a sound. A whisper of paper sliding under my door. I froze. My breath caught. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. Then, late that night, a letter appeared under my hotel door. The envelope smelled faintly of smoke and whiskey before I even opened it. I froze the second I saw it. A cream-colored envelope, slid halfway under my hotel room door, the edges still curling inward as if it had been forced there with shaking hands. My stomach dropped. No knock. No sound in the hallway. Just that smell, burnt ash, cheap whiskey. The smell of Robert. I crouched slowly, my fingers brushing the rough paper. The scent grew sharper, like he'd breathed on it before leaving. My hands trembled. Jesus, I whispered to myself. He couldn't be here. But my chest knew better. I tore the envelope open. Robert's handwriting slashed across the page, sharp and slanted, the kind of script you only see from men who carve their words instead of writing them. Congratulations, it began. I read the word aloud in a hushed rasp, the sound bouncing back from the hollow silence of the hotel room. Congratulations on your little victory. You've always been good at putting on a performance for strangers. Bravo. Truly. I swallowed hard. Every line felt like a knife twisting in me. But don't confuse applause with power. You may have saved Daniel today, but tomorrow, the truth will eat you alive. Because you don't know everything. You've never known everything. I dropped the paper, like touching it burned. My heart rattled in my ribcage. I wanted to scream for security, for Daniel, for anyone, but my voice caught in my throat. The paper fluttered against the carpet, and yet I picked it back up, as if some sick part of me needed to see the rest. Secrets. The letter continued, have always been my weapon. You thought forged recordings were the endgame? That was just a rehearsal. You don't even realize the deeper betrayals buried in your family. Ask yourself why your husband trusted me more than he trusted you. Ask yourself why Daniel never questioned me until now. Ask yourself if Lily is as innocent as she looks. No, I whispered, shaking my head. He's lying. He's twisting it. He always twists it. But the words, God, they crawled under my skin like insects. Do you remember the night of the fire? The one you've never been able to talk about. The one you told Daniel was just an accident. I was there. I know things you don't. And one day soon, when the timing is right, I'll share them. Piece by piece. Drip by drip. Until you choke on the truth you've been pretending to own. My knees gave out. I slid down against the wall, clutching the letter in both fists like I could wring the malice out of it. My eyes burned. Stop. I muttered. Just stop. But Robert's voice played in my head, his smug little laugh, the way he used to lean in too close at family dinners, whispering things only I could hear. The final paragraph twisted the knife deeper. You beat me today. Enjoy the taste of it. Because it's the sweetest you'll ever have. Tomorrow, and every day after, I'll be inside your head, reminding you of what you don't know. You may have silenced me in front of your son, but I'll never be gone. I'll always be in the walls, in the shadows, in the spaces between your lies. Sleep well, darling. No signature. He didn't need one. The silence in the room pressed against me until I thought my ears would burst. I tried to steady my breathing, but the stench of smoke and whiskey clung to the paper, to my hands, to the air itself. It was like he was here, kneeling just out of sight, smiling. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I jumped so hard I almost screamed. Daniel's name lit up the screen. My thumb hovered, shaking. What could I say? That Robert wasn't finished? That even on his wedding night, his uncle's poison was already dripping through the cracks? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My voice wouldn't come. Instead, I crumpled the letter into a ball, pressing it so tight my knuckles turned white. But even crushed, the words echoed in my head. I whispered to the empty room, as if Robert was listening. You're not going to win. Not this time. But my hands were still shaking, and the letter's final words wouldn't leave me. I thought the nightmare had ended, but Robert's letter proved it had only just begun. Even now, with the wedding behind us, my heart refuses to rest. It should have been over. The vows were said. The champagne poured. Daniel and Lily had driven away that night in a car filled with laughter, tin cans clattering against the pavement as guests cheered half-heartedly. From the outside, it was a wedding, but from where I stood, clutching my chest as the taillights vanished, it felt more like a battle with no clear winner. Weeks have passed since then, but I still feel Robert's shadow stretching across my skin. At night I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it turns slow, creaking like bones grinding together. Every sound makes me flinch. A floorboard settling. Pipes knocking. Sometimes I swear I hear faint footsteps outside my window, even though I know it's impossible. And then there's the smell. It's ridiculous, but sometimes, when I open a drawer or fold clean laundry, I catch the faintest trace of whiskey and smoke. It slams me back into that moment with the letter, the words cutting into me like fresh wounds. I tell myself it's just my mind playing tricks. Trauma has a scent, doesn't it? But deep down, I don't believe that. Daniel calls me often now. Mom, he says, his voice always soft. We're okay. You don't have to worry so much. I want to believe him. I really do. Last Sunday, he and Lily invited me over for dinner. Their new apartment was warm and cluttered, the kind of space that already carried their fingerprints in the details. Lily's vase of daisies on the table, Daniel's stack of old records leaning against the wall. We ate roast chicken, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself laugh. Lily teased Daniel about burning the potatoes. Daniel teased me about fussing over him. For a moment, it almost felt normal. But then, when Lily reached across the table, the silver bracelet I'd given her at the wedding glinted in the candlelight. My throat tightened. That bracelet had been my gift to her, a delicate band etched with intertwining vines. For protection, I'd said as I clasped it around her wrist. For love. She'd smiled, her eyes shining, and hugged me like a daughter. Now, staring at it weeks later, I couldn't shake the irony. Symbols can't shield us. They can only remind us of what we hope for, not what lurks outside the door. I caught Lily watching me then. Her smile faltered just a fraction. She tilted her head, her voice careful. You okay? I forced a laugh, waving it off. Just tired. It's been a long few months. Daniel frowned. You've been jumpy, Mom. You're sure you're all right? I nodded too quickly. Of course. Don't worry about me. Just focus on each other. But I could feel their eyes on me as we finished dinner. Concern, pity, maybe even fear. And I hated that Robert had left me with this. Distrust woven into every glance, like threads we couldn't cut. When I left their apartment that night, Daniel hugged me tight at the door. He whispered so Lily wouldn't hear. He can't hurt us anymore. You know that, right? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to promise I believed it. But all that came out was a shaky, I hope so. Back home, silence pressed against me harder than noise ever could. I sat at the kitchen table, tracing circles on the wood with my fingertip. The house felt alive, breathing in shallow drafts, sighing through the vents. I tried to distract myself by writing. Journals, half-finished letters to no one, scraps of thought. Maybe if I poured the words out, the poison would leave me. But no matter how much I wrote, Robert's voice always slipped back between the lines. Tomorrow, he'd written. Tomorrow the truth will eat you alive. That sentence has been tattooed on the inside of my skull ever since. And here I am now, pen scratching against the page, admitting something I don't want to admit. Peace doesn't feel real. It feels temporary, fragile, like glass waiting for a hammer. Even the sunlight through my curtains doesn't look soft anymore. It looks like a spotlight, exposing me. Even laughter feels rehearsed, a performance covering cracks in the stage. I tell myself to breathe, to live, to let Daniel and Lily build their life without Robert's shadow poisoning every corner. But the truth is I can't. Because even as I write this, I swear I can feel Robert watching,